Before we begin modeling, let's set up our reference images here in the 3D view. So while we're modeling, we can see the side, front, top, and back views. Now what I've done is I've gone out to a website called theblueprints.com, and you can see here that I've found some images of a Nash-Healey Roadster. And what we're going to do is go through the process of cutting these up and preparing them to take into Blender. And you do not need to do this. These images are in the project files, already prepared. You can skip to the next video and begin by bringing those images into Blender and begin from there. Now I'll be using Adobe Photoshop, but you can use any paint program like Krita or GIMP or Corel Paint. Any paint program that has multiple layers and you can copy and paste will do just fine. I've seen many different ways to do this, but this is the process I use, so I hope it'll be helpful for you. All I've done is just downloaded the image, and then I've opened it up in Photoshop. So let's go to Adobe Photoshop and click Open, and here is our image right here, and I'll just open that. Now the way I begin is I usually find the largest image, which clearly is this one from the top, and begin with that. Because what I'll do is I'll cut this out and make this image be the resolution or the size of all the rest of the images as well. So here, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go over here to the Marquee tool and I will click and drag a marquee around this. And let's then press Control-C and that will load that selection into the clipboard. I'll then go to File, New, and here's our clipboard information here. I'll select that. And then let's click on Create. I'll just take this and move this down here like that. And here is the size of that marquee. Now with this here, I'll press Control-V and paste that image into that frame. All right, so now let's call this top view. Let's just call it top. And let's go do that with another one of the images here. I'll click this tab over here, press Control-D to deselect, and now let's bring in the side view. I'll drag a marquee around it. And there we go. Press Control-C, click this tab, Control-V, and there we go. Now the trick here is to get this image to match the dimensions of the one underneath it. So I'm going to select this one. Let's go ahead and give it a name, call it side. And I'll come over here to the Move tool, click on that, and then I'll just press the arrow keys to move it over a bit. And so that we can see through it, let's come down here and change our opacity. I'll just drag this down to, I don't know, 30 or 40 or so, just so we can see if it's about the same length as the one underneath it. So I'm going to move this over a bit and move it down. Just, I see that the edge of the bumpers here looks like that's a pretty good place to measure. And yeah, it looks like it's about the right size, so that's good. All right, so I will take the opacity back up like that. We can move this back up if we want. I'll just use the arrow key and move it back up a bit. And I'll hit Enter. Okay, so now we've got that one in place. Let's bring in another one. I want to go to this tab, press Control-D, go back to that rectangular marquee and click and drag here for the front view. Let's bring this one in. Control-C, move to this tab, Control-V, and here we go. Now we've got to figure out how big this should be and where it should be placed. So let's change this to front. And I'm also going to reduce the opacity for this one temporarily. And let's go to the Move tool over here. And I'll hit the arrow key and bring it down so the tires line up pretty well. And how about the top here? If we zoom in a bit, yeah, the top of the window is pretty well aligned as well as the bottom of the tires. So this one looks pretty good as well. I will move this back up. Let's come over here, turn our opacity back up like that. And I'm going to go ahead and hide the top and the side for now. Let's do that. Now let's come back over to this tab and grab that final image, the one from the back. Press Control-D to deselect. I'll hit the M key to turn on the Marquee tool. And let's then click and drag this right here, Control C, go back to here, Control V. All right, now let's call this back, and we'll take the opacity down a bit so we can see the front view here as well. It looks like it's a little bit off, so let's see what we can do with this. I'll go back to the Move tool, and the tires are off a bit. So let's move these over, move it back up, and it looks like it's still a little off. Even though this tire is in alignment, this one is not. So let's move it so it kind of centers itself. It looks like it's just a little bit small. Let me bring the opacity up just a bit here. Let's see. The sides are correct, and the window seems okay, but the tires are off, and that very well could be the way the car is. Maybe the back tires are actually set in a bit. Everything else looks pretty good, though. So I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. I'll just hit Enter here, and let's zoom out a bit. And now what we can do is go through the process of exporting each one of these out individually. Let me take the opacity back up for the back view here, and I'll turn these off and just have the top view. Now, the thing about the top view, we need to think about how these images are aligned so they'll be properly aligned within the 3D view in Blender. And when I'm working with images and setting up a side view here, I like it to be facing to the left, and we have that here. And if we're going to have this face to the left, then I happen to know that the top image needs to be facing down. So we're going to need to turn this, but I can't turn it right now, because if I turn this image or this canvas currently, it will turn all of the others as well. So we're going to have to export it out and then turn it. So let's give that a try. First of all, I'll go ahead and do this one. Let's go up and click File, Export, Export As. I will export as a JPEG. And if I export it out, let's put it in the Reference Images Drawings. I've got a folder here for the drawings. Let's call this Nash-Healey Top. There we go. And that's been exported. Let's then hide this and go to the side view, and we'll do the same. We can press Control-Alt-Shift-W, and then we can export. And this, once again, can be called Nash-Healey Side. Save that. We will bring up the front view, Control-Alt-Shift-W, export. I'll select one of these and then just change this to front. And there we go. And then this one here, the back, Control-Alt-Shift-W, export. And let's change this to the back. There we go. Now that we've done that, we need to do one more thing. As I said, we need to turn that top view. Now I'm going to save this file as a PSD, as a Photoshop project. So I'm going to come up here to File, Save, and I'll just call this Nash-Healey Orthographic Views. I'll just do that. And then let's go to File and open up that top JPEG that we just exported. Here it is. And now let's turn it 90 degrees. So I'm going to come up here to Image, Image Rotation, and we'll turn it 90 degrees counterclockwise. And there we go. Now what we need to do is save this out. However, as I'm looking at it in this direction, it looks like it's just a little bit tilted this way. Let's test this out. I have my rulers turned on. You can see these around the viewport here. All I've done is gone to View, Rulers. But once you have those rulers, you can click in here and drag out guidelines. So I'll bring one and put it right down the center here. Maybe, oh, it's got snapping turned on. So let me go over here to View and turn off Snap. So then I'll hover over that again and drag it over till it's about right in the center of the car. And then I'm going to click and drag over here again, put one over on this side of the car, and then put one over on this side of the car just to see. And you can see once I do that, yeah, it's a little bit turned. You can see there's overlap over here on this side. And what we can do is just come over here to the Move tool and use this to turn it. But to do that, we need to make this so it isn't a background. We need to change this into a normal layer. And all we have to do is just double click it and click OK. And now it's a layer. Now we can see our points around our image here. And I think what I want to do is just turn this right here. Just hover out here, click and rotate that just a little bit, about like that. Let's see how that works. I'll hit enter. You can see there's a little bit of overlap here where the white has been moved away. We can go ahead and add another layer here, right here, drag this down to the bottom, and with our color at pure white, we can come over here to the paint bucket tool and just click in this layer right here and fill that with white. All right, I'm going to press Control-0 to zoom out, and here we go. All right, now I can come over here and turn off the canvas guides here. And now we can go ahead and export this out. I'll come up here to File, Export, Export As, and let's click Export. And we already have one Nash-Healey top here. Let's just call this Nash-Healey Top 2. And that's the one we'll use when we take it into Blender. So in the next video, we will do that. We will open up Blender and bring these images into our 3D view.